Hey guys, so I thought I'd make a video today. I'm in a different setting. I'm near the boys, pigeons and rabbits actually, but there's a guy working on a roof up there, so it's kind of making a lot of noise for the video. I yesterday came very far out of my centre, as I mentioned in my last video, and I recorded a video at that point, which I don't normally do, and that's why I took it down, and there's no permanent state of being centered in life for a human being. You must work at it, especially if you're dealing with everyday family life. If you have children, or if you're dealing with running a household, as I am here, and dealing with running what is for me now actually, it's like running a very large business of sorts. For all, it's not a business. Our profit is happy children, if you want to call it a business. Then naturally, in this physical realm, you will get stressed. This is just part and parcel of it. And if you don't find a way to unthink what is going on and to come back into your center, it'll escalate and you might even get ill from it. Now, there's a noisy rabbit over here. Now, yesterday I came very far out of my center, and I'm not naturally always in my center. Dealing with the stresses and the strains that life throws at you here sends you in many different directions, energetically, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I had to spend a lot of time meditating yesterday and finding the center of myself. Now, to do that, I go through my stages of meditation and prayer, and I tend not to eat when I'm stressed, as we all do, but that's your body's signaling. There's no point in compounding more things for your body to do while it's trying to deal with something else. There's just no need to do that to yourself. So I didn't eat yesterday daytime, and I meditated and I prayed, and I asked God for a sign. I said, look, give me a sign you're going to fix this. And I walked away tired from where I was, sitting out the back, just looking over the fields. And as I got to my house, there was a feather waiting right at the doorstep. There was no other feathers anywhere, it was just right there. And I said, okay, so you've got a plan. And I discussed whether I should upload the video that I put on, and Fritzy said maybe you should, to show people the urgency of the problem. And at the same time, show people that you're human and you're not always centered. Now, we see a lot of dark here in Tanzania, but what we see more of is what happens when you shine a light in the dark. I see that more than I see the dark. I see the dark all the time because that's where we have to shine this light. But what is more stunning and more awe-inspiring and more profound in my life is what happens when we shine a light on it. And I don't want to be a person who presents to you all darkness and leaves you thinking about darkness. This is not how it should be, because Share Tanzania is supposed to be a light in the darkness. And there's enough mainstream media and movies and so on that focus on darkness without I adding to that. So even on my Facebook, where I had mentioned this problem yesterday, I posted last night and said that I do not want to share just darkness and leave you with that. So let me share you something that's gone on where we've shone a light in the darkness. And I showed an update on the twin boys who are 14 and have been injecting heroin for 3 years, and they are clean for 3 months now. And I left a Bible quote in there: the light shine in the darkness, and the darkness comprehend it not. Because they lived and dwelled engulfed in dark, and we shone a light on them, and they'll never go back to that dark, not as long as myself and my team are here. We won't let them. We won't let the opposing energy to the one that we serve take them back. We just won't do it. As Jesus said, get thee behind me, Satan. And this is what happens with us day after day. We win. We win here. We shine the light and the darkness flees. And sometimes I am human, as we all are. I get worried and I get stressed, and when I do that, I feel as though it's a lack of faith, and I need to find the center of myself, which is where my faith flows freely and abundantly without limits. And yesterday I'd come to a point of such stress and concern that I disconnected from my faith. So I went back in and I found my faith again. And actually, whilst that video was online, God told me, take that down. So I took it down. And I prayed and I said, okay, I'm guessing that you must have a solution for us. And that I doing that is not going to affect you with that solution in any which way, shape or form. That, coupled with the fact that I hesitated to put it on anyway and asked Fritzy whether I should, which I never do, leads me to know that it's not the right energy to put out. Within half an hour of uploading the second video, I started receiving emails from a wonderful, godly man from America. Now, he posted his donation as anonymous, so I shan't mention who he is, because otherwise I believe he wouldn't have left it as anonymous. And he knows who he is, obviously, because I've been communing and communicating with who I now deem a friend, without any doubt, via email. Subsequently, by the time I lay my head down to go to bed last night, all of our worries were dealt with. Coupled with not just himself, but coupled with some donations we received yesterday. Some advanced money one of the Kilimanjaro climbers from September has offered from their fundraising pot. And that man who God brought to me, who had seen nothing about the witch doctors or the videos or the fence and nothing about our security problems. He just did it because he wanted to help special needs children. He has a child with autism in his life, and I think it resonated with him naturally, as it should. Some of our children are a little autistic. Two, actually, not some. Two are Emmanuel and one Ajuma, who lived down in the other house. And God had a plan, and without persons even seeing what I was doing, he answered our prayers. And he did it in his own time, in his own way. Because what is not up to us, only how. But there is something about our human nature that when we face a worry, and when we let fear gnaw at us and get in, when I should not, at this point I should know that God has us covered. God has my back. I know God has my back. I just need to look around this place to know he's got my back and he's got the children's backs. But it still doesn't stop you having human worry when the bank account runs empty, for example. It just doesn't. But naturally, as a human, we tend to reach out for help in all different directions when we do have a worry or something is troubling us or bothering us. And in my experience, nearly 100% of the time, the only place I should be reaching is God. And when you're not in the center of yourself, you can forget that. And you reach out in all different directions. Now, I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, I had the 70 children who were going to be removed from school. And it was reaching out on YouTube that allowed those children to all go to school. And all of them were oblivious to the fact that their lives were nearly about to change forever, because by now, without that, most of them would have been in the quarries or labouring or whatever they'd be doing. Some might have even ran to the streets, which is the story of many of the boys in Angel's Gate. And when you go to the streets, as I always say, you run through the gates of hell without even realising it. I appealed to humanity for assistance, but I did that because I first appealed in prayer to God, what should I do? And I had an overwhelming urge to make a video. And this was God's way of using a collective to not only completely increase and boost and bolster my faith and trust in our followers who all of you make our world possible. But also in the fact that I should always heed the instruction of God. If he'd said don't make a video, I wouldn't have done it. For I'd have believed maybe he's got a wealthy benefactor who's going to stumble across us as God has these things happen. Whatever it might be, I follow prayer first. And yesterday I didn't follow prayer first. I allowed my emotions to direct what I was doing, and I recorded a video in a little bit of an uncentered and a little bit of a concerned and worried state of being, and very frustrated as well. And God quashed it. He said, that is not my plan for this problem, for the answer to this prayer. This does not play a role. And that's why I took it down. Now, the appeals I wrote on Facebook were very straightforward, and due to that we had nearly £1,000 in donations. And this contributes 30% of what we needed. But that emotional video and me making people concerned and worried is not something that I should have been doing or God wanted me to do. Now this story echoes in the Bible. If you want to reach a place in prayer where you commune with God, and in communing with God, and you reach the promised land where God can tell you which way to go and what to do, you have to cross your emotions. You have to steer clear of them. Now, you're not supposed to be emotionless. You need your emotion. You need your empathy to be able to function as one of God's children. But to hear God, to hear his direction for your life, you must cross the emotion. Now, emotion in esoterics is represented by the colour red. And Moses crosses the Red Sea after holding up his staff and parting the Red Sea, using the energy that he did via holding up his staff. His staff that earlier in the story was a serpent. The serpent is a representation of the energy in meditation climbing up your spine to reach the promised land, the pituitary and the pineal gland, the land flowing with milk, serotonin and honey, DMT. And after Moses held up his rod, held up his staff, he was only then in meditation, by having his energies upright and straight, able to cross the emotions, the Red Sea, and begin and carry on his journey to the promised land. Now it's no different to how Moses had to hear the commandments. He had to go to a higher place. There are always mountains represent a higher level of consciousness. Red always represents emotions, but there's a process you must go through. And yesterday what I did, I was staring down upon the Red Sea, and then I acted. And I could not hear God's wants because I acted before I'd reached him. And this is why I had to take down that video. And this is why we have to all be a house of prayer. You must be a house of prayer to hear what is needed to answer what you are calling out for. Now God is answering our prayers all the time here, but we don't pray for ourselves. I don't pray for a new car. Why would God hear such a prayer? I don't pray for things like this. Don't pray for material gain. Maybe you could pray for a new car if you need it, and maybe you're sick or something of this nature. Of course, God will start to work his magic, but just to pray for a new car because the one you've got's not flashy enough. This is not the sort of prayers we speak of, guys. And when God doesn't heed your prayers because you're praying for someone to fall in love with you or something of this nature, these are not prayers. These are your wants, your desires, and this is ultimately an esoteric way of saying that what you're doing is you're committing adultery. Now, of course, we shouldn't commit adultery, but in the esoteric sense, what you're doing then is you're allowing the bridegroom, which is yourself, to commune, basically, instead of communing spirit with the want of your prayer, you're communing the carnal mind with the want of your prayer. And this is adultery in esoteric sense. You're committing adultery upon the Holy Spirit. Now this is why many persons give up on prayer, because they pray for the wrong things. But I only ever see prayers getting answered. Sometimes God takes his time. And it frustrates me, and I say to God, you're the almighty, all-powerful consciousness that courses through all things. Why can't you fix this today? And it's because he has plans of his own. I'm not wise enough. I'm not wise enough to know what God can do to answer a prayer. I'm not. And at the same time, yesterday I had a very profound moment where we have a new puppy here that was rescued. And he's but a few weeks old, and he's so curious about, a month old now, he's so curious about the world, and he's on his own, he doesn't have parents, so he's latching on to me, and he's latching on to Fritzy, and latching on to the other dogs, because he's got no direction, he's not sure what to do, his mum's not there anymore. And he's so bewildered with the world, and kind of scared and amazed by it at the same time. And when I look at him, I sense it, and it makes me want to help him as much as possible. And I said to Fritzy last night, I said, if I look upon this wonderful little dog who we've called Akila, after the wolf in Jungle Book, if I look upon this wonderful little being in this way, and I've only been on this planet for nearly 32 years now, then how is it that the eternal all that is, that watches in on our lives and answers our prayers, views I? He must view me in exactly the same way. Look at my stumbling child with his awe for the world and his fear for this, that and the other. And the same feeling that is generated in I by watching this curious, frightened and trying to find his place in life puppy must be the same feeling generated in any other person with a fathering or a mothering instinct, like the Elohim, the Lord, our God. That which I always label he, but the Elohim is masculine, feminine. And God must watch us in the same way, so he doesn't mind, I think, when I get frustrated and say, where are you? What are you doing? How dare you not answer this when we need it? How dare you leave these children wanting for something? How dare you leave them vulnerable and exposed without a security fence? What are you playing at? And God must be watching me and just smiling and shaking his head a little bit and saying, just like I do with the puppy when he's tipping the food bowl over or chewing on my shoes. And I go, oh, he doesn't know. And God must think the same, I presume. He doesn't know. The puppy to I is I to God, is how I see it. So we must be a house of prayer, but we must pray for those things that God can and will answer. You can't pray for things that will interfere with another person's free will. You can't pray for someone to be in love with you. You can't pray for all of us can't pray to be the President of America, for there's only one position. We can't pray to affect the realms of the enemy, for God does not always dwell within there. We have two opposing energies here in our reality. Ahura Mazda, Zoroaster, Zoroastrianism. They said that the whole world was a necessity of Ahura Mazda and the opposing, I forgot their name actually. I'll put it in writing in case I say the wrong one. But they say the whole point of it is that you have to have in their belief system, you have to have these two energies to have a balanced reality that we live in. And Ahura Mazda, which is the positive side of things, can't always reach into the negative side of things because the two create equilibrium. And this is their belief system. But this is why we can't always pray to change things. We can't always pray to stop a war because it's not always the God we're praying to that's creating the war. We can't always pray and expect every prayer to be fulfilled about protecting certain things because sadly that God is doing a battle with that opposing energy. Just as we are dueling with the opposing energy, we are creating the abundance in the life of our children whilst head on constantly with our foot down and our knee down in the ground and pushing hard shoulder first against poverty and lack. We are dueling with another energy, and so is God. But know that God does answer prayers and can answer prayers, and he watches the vulnerable. And if it's in his power to answer a prayer, he will answer a prayer. If I pray for him to make all of our special needs children walk, he won't do that. Because this is a reality of laws and logic. But if I pray and say these children are not safe, I need to build a fence, within the laws of science, within the laws of our reality, and within the laws of the functioning of human beings, God can reach in and do that. or He can move the heart and mind of another to help us to do that. So we must pray. To do that, you must make sure you are not in your emotions. To do that, you must cross the Red Sea. You must find the center of yourself. And when you do, God will open the floodgates and answer that which you have asked for. Or He will show you how to find the answer to that which you have asked for. But if you act out of your emotions, you'll do what I did yesterday, and you'll take the wrong step. And if you become quiet enough after that, God will reach in and say, stop, take that down, as He did with I. This is not part of my plan to heal this problem. And then He healed it in His own way. And that leads me on to another video topic about being in your center. I think I'll do it shortly. I'll just finish by saying, what we all seek is light. And out here in the light is often where you end up feeling dark. But going inside in the darkness is often where you find the light. And that leads me into the next video I'm going to make. So I'll do it now, I think. God bless, guys.